Yeah.
From the beginning to through the program, it was really good. Like I enjoyed that I could go at my own pace, because there were times where I did quite a bit of listening, and then there was I like that I can go back and listen to it, because you know, as you implement some of your techniques, things change, and you realize and you learn from them. And so going back and re-listening to your program is very helpful.
Good.
Before I felt like I knew that I was inconsistent with the way I was doing things, but I didn't know how to change that or get there. And so I think now I'm better. The parameters are better.
Good.
So my stress level in dealing with those things is lower, because I feel like I'm doing something that makes sense.
Yeah, productive.
Yeah, instead of being reactive and then you know, feeling like a bad parent and all those things that you go through and things don't go as smoothly as you hope.
And remind everybody, Chad, how old your kids are, because a lot of times parents who have kids who aren't toddlers or really, really young, they sometimes think that the program won't work. And so that's often helpful for parents to see that there's parents who have kids of all ages.
Yeah, they're 12 and 13. And so most of the issues that come up, like on the Facebook Zoom, are for kids younger, but they still apply. I mean, it's more challenging when they're older, because they don't accept what you say quite as quickly. And patterns, I think, are set in a little bit deeper, and habits and expectations, but it's still the same. It is still the same stuff. And so I never really felt like that was much of a challenge in the program, that my kids were a little bit older.
Yeah.
Certainly the meltdown and the tantrum stuff is different when they're 12 and 13, but they still have them. I think they're more intermixed. It's not quite as clear which is which, but you still know your kids, and the techniques that you taught still apply. So yeah, I never felt like that was much of a big deal or hindrance.
Yeah. How do you feel your relationship is with your kids before joining the program until now going through?
It's always been pretty good, but I think that they understand my expectations a bit better, and I think that the things that would have driven a wedge between us over time are being managed differently. So I'm not concerned about those things. I mean, I know one thing at the time that was a struggle was my son's behavior around video games, and how I would manage that. And he still doesn't get as much video game time as he would like, but he understands the rules much better. And we rarely have an issue when I ask him to get off a video game he's on. The expectation has been consistent, and so we don't have the fights. And for the hours following that, we don't have the drama around how unfair it is. So
that's good. I know I often say to parents, we spend so much time dealing with challenges in ineffective ways, power struggles, negotiations, yelling, all those outbursts, because we're trying to stop something without knowing how to stop it. But when you really have the tools, you can get to the place like you've done with the video game. So you actually resolve it. He can still play video games. You have your boundaries, but it isn't an ongoing battle. And if something's an ongoing battle, there are ways to set it up to avoid it, just as you've done, which is so, so great to hear.
Yeah. And it's, also trying to think about, instead of thinking, why is he mad? I don't understand why he's getting so mad. That doesn't make sense to me. And me getting frustrated, I try to go back to some of the things you talked about and think about, okay, what is he not getting? Is this about power? Is that why he doesn't feel like he's in control? And then that helps me to understand what I probably didn't do well leading up to it, that I could do a better job next time.
That's so amazing. And that also helps stress levels, because we're not feeling triggered as often by our kids' behavior, because we're often triggered by those negative behaviors. We're like, figure it out. What's the problem? Come on. I mean, life's not that bad. And we get very, very triggered by it. But when we have the tools like you now have, you can step back and see, okay, there's a reason behind it. What is that reason? What can I do? What should I have done? What did I miss? And now you have some real logical steps to follow, which is way less stressful than feeling like, just knock it off. It just doesn't work. And so that's amazing. And those are tools you're going to use forever and ongoing, and tools that you're continuing to role model to them, that they will then pick up to use for self-management skills with kids of their own if they choose to have one day. So it's really an ongoing process now that you're teaching them, which is great. So any regrets in joining the program?
No. I mean, no, I can't imagine why I would regret any of it. I mean, people take courses for lots of reasons, and typically in the course there's one gem that you pick up and you're like, that was worth it, this one thing. So I learned lots of different things, and so there's no regrets.
That's great. And what do you say to parents who are on the fence, back to when you were debating joining or not joining, and you try and decide and you're not sure, and it's hard to make that decision? What do you say to those parents?
Well, I would imagine the only thing that would prevent them is a financial cost of it. But there are, I think, of the money spent until they're 18 years old, and it's such a small cost for mental health and enjoyment and relationships. Like the cost doesn't matter when you have a long-term picture of the benefit. So yeah, I don't see a downside.
Yeah, it's a lifelong change. It's not a 12-week course, one and done, and then you go back to where you were. You continue to take those skills. So you're right, until they're 18. And then with your grandkids, if you have grandkids, and with the relationships you have in your own personal life, there's skills that you continue to use. So that's great advice. So I really, really appreciate you sharing this with all of us. I loved having you in the program. I love to see your transformation and hear about it. And you're a great role model to your kids, to those around you. And there's nothing better than that. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the help.